Okay, Dr. Chavura, good to meet you.
Good to meet you. Thank you for interviewing me.
All good. So you interrupted Ted O'Brien's speech briefly. Would you like to share some of the comments that you have on the current state of the Liberal Party, the Liberal leadership?
The Liberal Party, unfortunately, is a zombie prowling around looking for a philosophy to animate itself, and if it doesn't find a philosophy soon, it's going to have its brains blown out at the next election. That's what the Liberal Party is. And the reason I was so annoyed at everything that Ted O'Brien was saying is that they're all just... A lot of it was just platitudes, and the thing that really got me was this constant emphasis on Australian values being what unifies Australians. But historically, Australians have been unified not because of some abstract, vague set of values, but because historically, up until about 1970, pretty much all Australians, except for some very small minorities, came from Europe, particularly from Anglo-Celtic Europe. And so we had a similar heritage, similar experiences, similar history. That's what unified us, not abstract values. And the problem I have with the abstract values approach to what makes us Australian is that it means that you can bring over 500,000, 700,000, 800,000 people from India, 500,000 people from China, 50,000 people from North Africa, 3,000 people from Gaza, and say, oh, they're Australian because they subscribe to these vague, abstract values, which really mean nothing, and it's destroying our country.
I think this is pretty typical of the split we're seeing in the Conservative movement around the Anglosphere between, for example, in the Trump administration, between more protectionist, nativist elements and more free market, sort of the Elon Musk types.
That's right.
What would you say, because we're a Gen Z-focused podcast, what would you say to people in Gen Z who hear the views that you've just expressed and say, oh, that's racist, or that's xenophobic, or that's discriminatory against certain religions? What would be your argument to win them over?
Well, first, I don't really care if someone calls me a racist because I know I'm not a racist. I'm a Christian. I think everyone is a child of God, so I'm absolutely not a racist. What I would say to them is that, first and foremost, there is nothing racist about the people who founded a country wanting to remain in the demographic majority. So, for example, there is nothing racist for Japanese people, ethnically Japanese people, wanting Japan to remain overwhelmingly Japanese. There is nothing racist about the French wanting the same. There is nothing racist about the Germans wanting the same. Australia has, of course, a long history of immigration, but not all Australians come from immigrants. The people who came here in 1788 were not immigrants. They were creators. To be an immigrant is to come to a country that already exists and fit in. That's what an immigrant is. These people came to a land. It most certainly had Indigenous Australians, but they came to a place which was not a country, which had no institutions, no structures, and they created it all. And they did it all based on what they had learned, the good, and trying to avoid the bad from Britain. To say we are a nation of immigrants isn't quite accurate. We created something as well.
And sort of changing tracks for a second, you're a professor at Campion College.
I'm a senior lecturer. I'm not a professor, though.
Yeah. My apologies. What would be your sort of assessment of the current state of Australian universities? Obviously, we just had the Charlie Kirk assassination, in the state of free speech and all of that.
The Australian I think we've got far too many Australian universities. We don't need them all. And so because we've got too many, they scramble to find students to fill them up. And so what they're doing is they're getting heaps and heaps of students from overseas, from China, from India, from elsewhere. And I was in the mainstream universities teaching political science for 15 years. And what that has done is that it has lowered the standards of the universities because you're literally bringing in thousands of people for whom English is a second language at best. They're often not very good at English. Sometimes they can't even really read or speak it very well. And you can't bring these people over in the thousands and the tens of thousands and then fail them. You can't do that because then they go back home and say, don't go to an Australian university because you'll spend all this money up front for fees and then they'll fail you. So what do? We lower the standards. We make it much easier for them to pass. And in the process, the university standards have dropped. So that's one problem with the university. The other problem is that ideologically they are completely captured by Neo-Marxism. Now, the science departments I really don't have much of a beef with, although they are unfortunately captured by climate alarmism. And so there are very good people on that, like Ian Plimer, who's speaking here, Peter Ridd's hanging around here somewhere. But they've just become really factories manufacturing little Neo-Marxist Australians who, when they come out, they hate Australia. That is what they've become. And so humanities departments especially, they're all basically shutting down. And quite frankly, I don't care, because they're not producing what they should have been producing. Universities should be producing people who can think properly, and people who actually, when they leave university, think, right, what can I do to make this great country better? But so many now are leaving university saying, right, this is an appallingly racist, genocidal country. What can I do to further undermine it? That's what they're producing.
And final question, what would be your advice for Gen Z, whether they're interested in politics or not, general life advice or advice for getting into politics? What would be your advice for them?
Well, general life advice would be but don't just go to university because you're told to. Like, ask yourself, what do you want to do with your life? And if you're not too sure, don't just go to university, get a job. And let me tell you right now, some serious life advice. If you can, marry young, have children, because that's where you're going to find the real meaning in your life. You're not going to find it in a career. Most people who set out to have a career never have one. They will just wind up in a job that they can tolerate, that they don't mind it, but it's not necessarily a career. And you're not going to get that much meat. The chances are you're not going to have a high-flying, exciting career. Don't believe what the universities tell you. They're just playing to our vanity. You're going to wind up in a job that pays decently and that you're tolerably happy with. You don't hate going into it. And where you're going to find your meaning in life is going to be in your family. So focus on building a family. In fact, that's the best way that people are going to pull Australia up from where it's at.
Dr. Chavura, thank you for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you very much.